A local man received commutation from President Trump before he left office. Corvain Cooper was serving a life sentence after getting a third strike for selling marijuana.
Tell me who wanna run with us. Mobbing back to back in them Bentley trucks. Blowing on that saucy to set me tight. I used to take that package, I would wrap it and send it up. Now I put money on your books until the day that you sent it up. One nigga Corvain said he living life after life.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Tons Talk. I'm Anthony Allegretti, the Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of the brand. We are here with a very special guest, a very special human being. I'm very honored to have him in the building. Please welcome to Tons Talk, Sloane Barbour of Engin.
What's up?
What's up, man? Thanks for coming out, dude.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, we actually got love because, you know, Sloane is an East Coaster. So we're here on the West Coast right now interviewing Sloane. And you might not be able to get Sloane very easily because he's a world traveler. He's always going around the country working. He's at every conference. So it's an honor to have you here, brother. I really appreciate it.
It's great to be here, man. And I love getting out to LA. I feel like it's the birthplace of the modern legal cannabis industry. Got to pay homage to the folks that started it out here, and just excited for what's happening in New York and trying to bring that energy and connect the two coasts together.
Man, I love that, man. And it's really appreciative that you pay respects to the legacy. You know, a lot of folks come into this industry and they don't do that. And so I love and respect the fact that you're doing that and what you guys have built to even support legacy, support everyone for that matter is just incredible, man. And, you know, we could get right into it. Like, tell us, like, what is Engin? Like, what do you guys do? I know you guys are partnered with FlowerHire.
We got all sorts of partners, man, and we're really looking forward to what we can bring to the table and how we can help the industry. But, you know, Engin is a recruitment marketing platform. So it's built from the ground up for emerging industries, and it's really specifically built for cannabis and the regulated cannabis market. And when I joined the industry, you know, in 2019, I joined with our friends over at FlowerHire, which is an executive recruiting and HR advisory firm. You know, was doing really good work, but all pretty much six-figure jobs, you know, helping candidates transition into the industry and helping companies grow. And what we realized is, you know, when looking at the space, 85% of the workers in cannabis are hourly workers. And that's a very high volume, you know, job. And it's new jobs. It's jobs that haven't existed before in the legal framework, at least, right? Like a bud tender or, you know, modern manufacturing in the cannabis industry.
Trimmers.
Exactly. And there's also a lot of turnover in that space. So really you needed to build software to solve that problem. And so we built Engin to be on the side of, you know, the B2B operator and help companies you know, hire their teams more sustainably, more equitably, and ultimately more profitably for the business and for the workers.
Man, tell us like what makes Engin different from maybe some of the other platforms that are out there. Because, you know, I personally know about Engin. I've been on the site, just all the widgets that they have, all the ways that they do things, the way that you guys bring people in and you get a full, like not only do you create their resume, but you get like a full character profile, kind of like you ask all these different questions that aren't even related to business, but it's like you do that because I'm assuming you're pairing people with the right type of...
So it's a great question, and I'm glad you've taken a look. But one of the key things that we realized early on about people, job seekers coming to the cannabis industry is they were very excited about the industry, very excited about what was going on, but they didn't know where to start, right? Where do I fit? Right, what role is going to be a good fit for me? How can I excel? Because, you know, a job that fits you as a worker is just as important as, you know, you fitting the company and what they're trying to hire.
Sure.
You know, because it goes both ways. And if you want a job, and more than just a job, but if you want a career where you're going to stay and you're going to grow and you're going to learn a lot of new skills and be very confident in yourself, ideally it's a job that fits. So
culture.
We do, culture, and also like what we call soft skills, right? And this is, you know, very scientifically studied. It's a field called psychometrics. You know, one of our team members is psychometrics. It's like the study of people's traits and proclivities. So I would be like, you know, a classic extrovert as an example. That's one of the dimensions of personality. And so I excel in roles that require a lot of social connection. So I've been in sales most of my career, right? And it fit me well, and I've been good at it. And because I was good at it, I was confident, and because I was confident, I was better at it. You know, and that's a virtuous cycle.
Good point.
That we want people to tap into. So you take a small quiz, helps you understand yourself, and then if you're, say, more extroverted, we might highlight some of the bud tender jobs for you because that involves a lot of communication with patients and with customers. And if you are more scientifically minded, perhaps a role in extraction, right, and manufacturing is going to be a better fit. Now, you can apply to whatever job you want as a job seeker, and you can look at any company you'd like to. But we found that it adds a lot of value, and that the downstream effects for our customers when they're using our platform is that when they post a job, the people that come in are higher quality. They're more likely to respond. And when they hire them, they're more likely to be successful and stay longer. So really, we want to help the industry improve the overall employment brand of legal cannabis. And we think in order to do that, every individual company has to have the tools to build a sustainable, equitable, and profitable workforce.
I like that. I don't really think there's really much companies out there doing that. I mean, yes, there's job boards. Yes, there's, HR, staffing and recruiting, but you guys have taken on like a different angle, so to speak, and like adding that extra value. I like that. We all know that it's tough right now, right? We know that we're in a recession. We're coming out of a pandemic. For those of you that are in the legal cannabis industry, know how tumultuousness it is. It's really, really tough. What are some of the trends that you're seeing? Even though we're adding new jobs, there's a lot of people losing jobs right now. So like, what are some of the trends that you're seeing as it relates to getting hired in the cannabis industry?
Getting hired in the cannabis industry, in general is a difficult thing to navigate. We recognized that right when we started to launch Engine, and we knew we had to build tools for job seekers as well. So part of what we did when we launched is we also launched our own proprietary job board, careersincannabis.com. So when people navigate there, they find our jobs, we distribute listings, and they can create profiles, and they can learn about really what's going on in the industry. And what we've seen from that data is that it hasn't slowed down the interest in working in cannabis.
Sure.
There are certain companies in certain states where there's incredible pockets of growth. Companies in California, like Stizzy as an example, great operator, has an incredible brand, is growing to multiple states. They're one of the, what I would say, rising stars doing well. There's states like Missouri, Maryland, New York, New Jersey that are all coming online and have to open stores and have to launch brands. Like, even if the macro economy is shaky, they don't have a choice, right? They got a license, they got investors, or they got their own money tied up in it.
Point made.
They got to go, right? Now, there's also, unfortunately, a lot of consolidation, especially in places like California and other mature markets, which is an expected, sort of natural maturity of any industry, but it is painful for the people operating in it. So we want to be able to help those that want to stay in the industry, but maybe they're just on a boat that's sinking. They want to get onto another boat that's ready to take the next wave of cannabis forward.
And are you seeing like a lot of I guess like mid-career to executive career jobs, like people jumping from ship to ship because of the fact that there's so many companies that are downsizing and laying people off? Or are you seeing like still a rise in like that higher end type of job as well?
Our data shows that, like 80% of people that work in cannabis want to stay working in cannabis. And when they're looking for, another job. Now, people got to look out for themselves. They got to take care of their families. And so they may need to go into another industry because they got to pay the bills. But almost overwhelmingly, almost everyone that we talk to and that comes and navigates to our site or that creates a profile, wants to work in the industry. They ask a ton of questions. They're eager to keep their career, grow their career. And you see that as, I think, a beacon of hope, that the workforce is that motivated, even though it's unpredictable, it's difficult to navigate. And, as we all know, it's a bit of a wild ride. Even when things are going well in the legal cannabis industry, it's a bit of a wild ride. But we have an obligation to make it right because of the history of this plant.
Absolutely. And the beauty of it too is you're in a space where you're not technically dealing with over compliance, taxation, right? Because you are in the recruiting space as opposed to the CPG side of the business. And so you make good points that, although it is a bumpy ride, there's still it's like kind of like that, right? Like
there's going to be 500,000 people or more by the end of this year based on the current trends working in the industry. That's a big industry. It'll be 1 million over the next 4 to 5 years.
What are some of those states that you're seeing that growth in?
New York will be a 50,000 person state. New Jersey will be a 20 to 25,000 person state. Pennsylvania, when it comes legal, will be 40, 50,000. Connecticut will be 15,000. So that's 100 to 150K. Jeez. New jobs in the tri-state area, minimally in the next next 3 to 5 years in a completely new industry, right?
Yeah.
That should be, again, equitable jobs that pay well, and jobs that, are not this churn and burn that a lot of industries, and particularly cannabis, presently suffers from. And there's a better way. And I think some of these new operators, it behooves them to build their business in a way that they can have a really strong talent community. Because as you know, building a brand yourself with 40 tons, like, brand matters. And
100%.
And you'll see in California what's going to happen. Consolidation. A lot of brands have already failed, and the ones that survive, if they do a good job, they can rise to the top. And that's the nature of what, a long-term strategy is all about. And your consumer brand and your employer brand in 2023, they're the same thing. You have to maintain a positive employer brand and communicate with your workforce and your talent pool and your local communities, or you're not going to make it.
Are you seeing, like, as a whole in the industry, are you seeing that, legacy to legal is a thing, or is it more like in pockets? And, like, if so, like, what is Engine doing to try to help kind of bridge some of those gaps?
Yeah, so Engine is a platform, right? We don't view ourselves as the solution to the hiring problem in cannabis, because we know that we have to maintain a focus on the area where we can make the biggest impact. And being a software company, my co-founder Valerie and our CTO, she comes from decades of experience. She has a dual PhD. She's built companies that have scaled to be bought by the largest job boards in Europe. Val. So Valerie's amazing, and it's incredible to work with her. But we brought real, outside of cannabis, true technical talent to come and try to solve this problem, because this is a ubiquitous problem for every company.
Correct.
Right? Hiring great people and hiring them and retaining them for a long time. And then you add on the layer of the prohibition of cannabis and what that did to marginalized communities and communities of color for the past 100 years.
Sure.
And you also have certain compliance, mandated by states where you have to hire from certain zip codes. And then you have the just moral and really the business obligation to build your team in the right way and, involve the legacy community.
And you've done that. You guys have contributed.
And what we feel like we've worked with partners like 40 Tons or like the Justice Foundation or, other organizations that we're building partnerships with across the country to make sure that they have access to these jobs through our distribution network, that they understand the employers that are hiring in their areas, and that we can then provide that data back to the customer, show them resumes, highlight those people, and work with legacy communities to actually badge these applicants as like, yes, I worked in the legacy community, or yes, I'm a justice involved individual, because we, want to have partnerships with states and local governments to make sure we can showcase and track like where's this economic opportunity going? And it's beyond just licensing, man.
Tell us, for those that don't know, what does badging mean in the sense of for Engine? Like when you say badge them.
So within the Engine platform, we work with several different partners to get validated credentials. So one of our partners, Green Flower Institute, has given out something like 40,000 credentials for things like bud tender, extraction technician, etc.
Gotcha.
We talk about working and getting a 40 tons badge. So if you attend one of your career fairs, you get a badge, and like that is displayed on your profile and it's validated. You can't fake it, right? But the reason why that's important is because anything that a job seeker can do to improve their knowledge of the space, improve their capabilities, and improve, their ability to network and find the right people to find themselves a job, it shows that they're going above and beyond. And we see that actually translates into career success. So we want to showcase to people, this is someone that went to a 40 tons career fair and also got this, 6-hour credential online, and also, is validated through our partners that, they are justice involved, and you should talk to this person, right? Like you got 1,000 applicants, talk to this person. And we don't want their resume to get lost in the shuffle, which
sometimes it happens.
I mean, that always happens. There's no good way to go through the thousands and thousands of resumes that a company gets every time they post a job until Engine.
100%. And, that's where ATS platforms come in. And like, sometimes those resumes do get lost in the sauce because the resume didn't meet the standard of the ATS to even get it to the next level.
And it's a black box. So like, you don't even know what's going on in there. So, we've built this to be completely transparent. So when you see your fit score, when you see your profile, when you see how all these credentials behave, and you look at that, that's the job seeker and the hiring managers see the exact same thing.
What's a fit score?
So fit score is a way for us to say, hey, based on your commute, based on your skills and experience, and based on what you're looking for, we think this job is a 78% fit, right? And it's pretty accurate. We understand that it does in fact work, and we've done certain validations. We're always improving it because nothing's perfect. But we want to at least give people the knowledge before they apply to a job, how well it suits them based on what they're looking for and what they've done. And one of the things that we use very heavily is just commute distance. Because if you're 40, 50 miles away from a facility, the chances of you staying more than even 3 months, it's like 20%. Like you're gonna quit that job when you find a job closer to home. And that's not a great way to start a new career, is by having to drive an hour and a half every day. So,
Are you factoring into your algorithm like metropolises versus other places, like in the sense of like a 20 miles in the country is not that far, but 20 miles in the city is, if you were 20 miles from downtown Manhattan, that's a 3-hour drive.
If you're 20 miles anywhere in LA, like you live in your car, right?
Right.
No, I mean, look, I think what we do now is we provide the fit score in the context of a map. We show you exactly how far you are on that map from the facility. We show you what the zip codes are, and then we present you with, based on your goals. So like when the job seeker creates a profile, they'll say, I'm open to a 40-mile commute. And then we'll take that into consideration. So if it's 40 miles away because you live in the country and you're open to that, then you won't be penalized, and it won't be displayed as being like some thing that you shouldn't apply to. But if you want to only commute 5 miles and this is 45 miles away and you stumble across this job, it's like probably not a great fit. So it's, even though that's very simple on the surface, what it does over time is it actually increases the likelihood that a job you apply to is not only a good fit, but a job that you'll get an interview for. And what we hear job seekers complain about rightfully all the time is that they apply to dozens or even hundreds of jobs, and they hear back from 5% of them.
Because they're just mass saying yes, 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 yes.
Because yes, the one-click apply phenomenon that like Indeed and these other companies have developed has its convenience, but it also sometimes creates more noise than signal. And then
I like that.
What we would love to deliver over time for job seekers in cannabis and beyond is the ability to say, here's what I've done, here's what I'm looking for, here's my resume. Our AI does its magic and it comes up with a fit score. And we say, these are 3 great jobs for you. You apply to them, you get 3 interviews, and you choose the best job. I mean, that's the dream, right?
Right.
And whether you're finding a job in cannabis or finding a job in retail or hospitality or corporate world, and you could do that, I think we'd be done.
You'd be a billionaire if you solved that problem.
I think we'd be onto something. But look, the problem exists everywhere, but it's really acute in cannabis because it's so opaque.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's also, we're fighting a century of propaganda.
Sure. I mean, we realize that, and that's why we brought our conferences to the table, is because we realize, and you mentioned this earlier, it's about access.
Yeah.
And having the access and being able to put these big companies and, a lot of system impacted folks and people that are from this legacy industry don't necessarily have the resources or the tools to get them job ready. And that's important, right? And so what we found was that when you pair education, opportunity, and you bring access, that's how you kind of start solving these systemic problems. That's how you fight these issues. We're the only industry, and you probably have the data for this, but we're the only industry that is half illegal, half not.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky on how we apply for things and how we work at places, and just the mere fact that we're working in the cannabis industry is breaking the law.
On a federal level, it is
right?
Every single day we come to work.
You get what I'm saying? And so there's this nuance to our industry that we kind of have to navigate through, unlike any other industry. So it's difficult, it's tough, and so having the right tools, having the right resources, creating the right software to be able to pair folks, providing that access is really important. So, let's take it back a little bit, and kind of get into, Sloane, the individual, because you're very business savvy, you're very extroverted, you network really well. 2 questions. 1, what made you choose cannabis? And 2, like, you're so passionate too about like your give back and like just doing the right thing as well. Like, what got you like that? Like, I'm just curious.
You know, I don't know if I chose cannabis or cannabis chose me, but
A lot of people say that.
you know, I'm fascinated with this industry, but what I've really been fascinated with my entire career is people. And so when I left college, it was 2005. We're right in the thick of sort of the tech revolution. Internet, mobile phones were just coming out, smartphones, etc. And I wanted to be in that industry. I wanted to be in something new, and I wanted to be on the people side of things. So I discovered tech recruiting almost by accident. An ad on Craigslist, and I became a tech recruiter. And I was started off, I don't know, getting paid $12 an hour, making $300 a day, calling resumes of COBOL engineers in Chicago. And just worked my way up, and I got to love the act of recruiting and like helping people find jobs and helping companies hire great people. And I didn't even realize it was an industry. But as I got more senior in my career, I started to do more volunteer work, and I started to look for ways to give back. And I discovered a charity in New York City when I moved there. It's called Camp Interactive. And it was in the Bronx, and it was in an old laundromat, and we had like 10 computers, and we would take, 20, 30 kids from, Brooklyn and Bronx public schools, hiking, camping, snowboarding, skiing. They would take pictures and they would build blogs. And we were trying to teach them modern digital skills so they could compete in the workforce.
That's dope.
It was dope. And that organization is now transformed. It's now called Mouse. It's been around for 25 years. It's in New York. It serves about 800,000 to 1 million students every year with tech education. And I was, still involved in that organization. It's incredibly inspiring. But what was frustrating is if you looked at the numbers in the tech industry in terms of diversity across engineering and leadership, it hasn't gotten better. And it's despite billions of dollars being spent on it. I mean, in certain pockets it's improved, but for the most part, I would say people are disappointed with those initiatives. And
Why do you think that is?
I think the reason for that, having been sort of looking at it on the inside and running programs to help students find jobs in the industry, is it was so completely baked into the system.
Right.
And this is an industry that had been developing for, decades up to this point. And so before you can really change, you have to sort of dismantle elements of the system that are preventing that change. That is incredibly difficult to do in a system that is trillions of dollars of economic activity is running through, like the tech industry. So when I left the tech industry, I just needed some time. It was 13 years. I had been a VP of sales at a company called Hired. It was, hyper scaling, raising hundreds of millions of dollars, but I didn't see the impact that I wanted to make, because I felt like it was done. The industry was done. There's 5 winners, the FANG companies, that was it. So I took a few months. I ended up reading this book about the Japanese principle of ikigai. Are you familiar with that?
No. Well, I'm familiar with Ikigai, but I'm not familiar with the book. What's the name of the name of the book?
I can't remember the book. It was a short story. It was just sort of this premise of Ikigai, which is the sort of intersection of these 4 areas of your life, which is your vocation, which is something you're really good at, your profession, which is something you can get paid for,
Yep.
your mission, which is something that the world needs, and your passion,
Yeah.
which is what you love.
Yep.
And in the center of that, where the Venn diagram overlaps, is the ikigai. It's this basically this balance,
Yep.
right? And this sort of happiness. And I became fascinated with this. And I said, how can I find this for myself? And I rung up an old friend, Dave Belsky, founder of FlowerHire.
Shout out, Dave.
Yeah, shout out to DB. And he and I had known each other since 2006 or 2007. And we used to work together. And I said, look, I know what you're doing. Cannabis has sort of been something that I've been passionate about, from a plant perspective and as an advocate, and I've been following along. Tell me what's going on. So,
And a consumer.
and a happy consumer, both a medical patient and a
Got some of that red Congo over on the side right now.
Absolutely, that red. Every time I come to LA, I got my guy with the red Congo. But
David Belsky.
yeah, so Dave was like, let me sort of bring you into what's going on at FlowerHire.
Gotcha.
So I went out to a Hall of Flowers in Santa Rosa,
Okay.
2019.
Yep.
Hall of Flowers, great event. Was blown away by what I met and what I saw there. I was like, this is a real industry, right? These brands are real. They need real people, and they're hiring and they're scaling. And when I met with Dave, he said, we're 5 people. We want to grow. I'm in New York City. He's in LA. So I joined as chief revenue officer, and that's what got me into the space. And then shortly afterwards, immediately seeing these HR leaders, these executive leaders, these hiring managers, they need software, they need technology. And then we launched Engine, we incubated it inside FlowerHire. They were one of our first investors. And then since then we've raised additional capital, and we're on the way to hopefully great success and making a big impact.
That's incredible, man. I don't meet a lot of people, but I do meet some people that were in another vertical, another industry, and it just wasn't meeting their passion. They weren't meeting, it was great pay, it was great work, but it didn't fulfill anything for them. So that's dope to see that, like, yes, you were in tech, but then you saw that it wasn't really having the profound impact that you wanted. And so you kind of transitioned into a thing that has. And like, now that you're in the cannabis industry, like, obviously you're in it, but like, do you love it? Are you like, what's your take on it?
I love it. I mean, this industry, and I think also it's representative to me, the cannabis industry represents what can be the industries of the future. And when I say that, I mean like how industries behave, at scale. And I believe that an industry and a business is literally nothing more than people. I mean, it's 100%. Capital, and it's consumer demand,
of course.
And it's like a marketplace, sure. But like if we didn't have people, none of it would exist. So it wouldn't matter.
People are the blood of the industry. You've got
100%.
Your brains, your engines, your transmissions.
Your engines, huh?
Your engines, get it, huh? Pun intended. But it's the people that's the blood of it. It's the oil in the car. Is the people, right?
Yes,
the blood in the body is
really, and that's why
what makes it all work.
And that's why we named the business Engine, because we're like, we really power the people side of the business, right? And yeah, that's the fuel to the engine, right? That's how you actually make it go. You can't do anything without people. So when I joined the industry, I knew that, but I also came, and this is important for people that are looking to get into the industry. Like, if you're looking to get into the cannabis industry, what skills do you already have? Right? Like, what can you do already? Maybe you're a retail worker. In my case, I was a recruiter, and
sales.
Cannabis hires people. They need recruiters too. Right? Yeah. I had sales and recruiting. That's what I knew. So I came and I got into that space, and then I found a lane, and I was able to launch a company that's focused on a problem I already know how to solve. Right? And it's a ubiquitous problem that industries face. That means that if I win in cannabis, which we plan to do, and we can really support this industry's growth and help companies hire better, hire smarter, hire faster, and retain longer, we can help other industries. We've talked to companies in the psychedelics industry. We've talked to companies that are doing industrial hemp and hempcrete. Right? I mean, like construction, sustainable construction, like $1 trillion industry, right? From hemp, right? And so if they want to launch a business, they need to hire people that have those types of skills on the agricultural side of things and the manufacturing side of things, which cannabis people might be great for that, right? It's the same plant. So you see this kind of as cannabis being almost like an overlay to what's happening more broadly in society.
I was going to say, yeah, because cannabis is just the product.
Right.
It's still CPG. It's still all the other ancillary things that go along with any other industry. Someone has to build the facility. Someone has to do the HR. Someone has to do the marketing, the operations, the et cetera, et cetera. And cannabis is just another product like the way peanut butter is. Right. So it's kind of
peanut butter.
It's kind of an overlay. Speaking of which, you talked about the skills that that if you have, how they can convert in the cannabis industry. What are you seeing in terms of AI? Because AI is taking a lot of our jobs away, but then it's also helping a lot of what we're doing as well. So like, what can you give on like AI as it relates to the cannabis industry?
You're going to have to sign an NDA over here, Anthony. I don't know, man. Pause the camera.
Maybe not what you're using on your tech. We'll
give you AI. We'll talk. I mean, look, AI, as if you are working in tech, or if you're very interested in tech and a nerd like I am, you've been following along with what's going on with ChatGPT and everything. And it has a profound impact on society. And I believe that. I believe, like all technologies, it can have a profound positive impact, and it can also have its fair share of problems and cause harm. So the way that we think about AI, both as individuals and also as a business with an engine, is that this is a paradigm that we're going to take advantage of. And we're going to take advantage of it in a way that powers people who are already overwhelmed. A cannabis recruiter or an HR person at a cannabis company, that is one of the most difficult jobs you can do in cannabis. Like, thank you to all the cannabis HR leaders and talent leaders out there at these companies, big and small, because it's not clear what the regulations are day to day. It's not clear who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's going to be a good job fit here. You know, what the winds of pricing is going to do over the next quarter. And you're reacting to a workforce that, you know, is eager and passionate, but still also doesn't have a lot of information themselves about
Correct.
what success looks like in a role. So you're building the plane as you fly it. So how can we provide AI tools for an HR leader to more efficiently post a job? You know, that's something we're doing already. And it sounds like a little thing, but we can save our customers 30% of what they spend on job advertising the day they use Engine. Literally just shave 30% off the bottom line. You're already spending thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to acquire people.
You see that? Make sure you register at Engine right now. Engine.co right now. Come through the 40 Tons affiliate link that's going to come down at the bottom.
There you go.
And make sure that you do that. But seriously, like not no shameless plug, but plug. You heard it right there. 30%. I mean, we're trying to save as much as we can on our bottom line.
This is the thing. It's like time and money in this industry is the scarcest commodity.
Correct.
Right? And you're an operator yourself. You got to hire people. You know, this industry churns 60 to 70% of the people they hire in the first 6 to 12 months. I mean, so basically you're replacing.
Is that at high level?
That's quite high.
Like excuse me, not high level. Entry level jobs, yes. But all the way up the chain.
Jobs. I mean, entry level jobs even higher. And in the first 3 to 6 months, you know, you might lose half of the people, right? Just because it's not the right fit. You know, people have certain perceptions of what it'll be like working in cannabis. It's a hard job.
Yes, it is.
You know, being a bud tender is like, that's the front line of this industry. Thank you to the bud tenders who are out there, you know, every day educating customers, educating patients, working with patients on what medicine's going to be best.
You're like a pharmacist.
You're like
a
pharmacist,
but getting paid like a cashier.
You're like a pharmacist. You're like someone working at a quick service restaurant because you got 100 orders every 2 hours. And also, like, you're kind of like one of the best analogies I've heard is like someone that works at Sephora. So if you've ever walked into a Sephora, I go with my wife sometimes. She loves, you know, a makeup store.
I go there too.
Of course.
We go there to get our cologne.
Armani exchange. So you get to a Sephora. There's so much choice. And maybe you went in to get, you know, some lip balm. But if someone comes over and says, oh, for your complexion, I actually think something like this. Have you considered this? And all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you're all dialed up and you got $200 worth of makeup in your cart. That's what a great bud tender can do when a customer and a consumer comes into the store.
Absolutely.
If they know the product, if they understand what the needs of the customer are, if they know how to talk about terpenes versus cannabinoids, you know, and educate on indica versus sativa and all of the sort of misinformation that exists there, and talk about THC percentage in a responsible way.
Yep.
These are all things that ultimately will create customer loyalty and will increase your average order value. And
Sure.
as an operator, you want that. So think about it. Where does that start? That starts with hiring a better bud tender at the very beginning, at the very top of the funnel. So if we can use AI to support that job seeker in finding their fit, and to support that HR leader or hiring manager to engage with the right candidates as quickly as possible via a beautiful mobile interface for the job seeker and a simple, easy to use dashboard for the hiring manager that can be their mission control for cannabis hiring. If we can do that, and we can do that at scale, we think we can make this industry perform 20% better, 30% better on a key metric like staff retention. And if you can do that, that is a major ripple effect because it improves the quality of everyone's experience, from the consumer to your coworkers to the leaders to the investors.
What do you think is the reason for such low staff retention is in this industry? Why is that? Where we don't see that is it because of the misinformation and not having enough of that information at a macro scale is why we're seeing turnover? Or like, are there other hidden reasons why there's so much turnover in this industry?
The turnover in cannabis, well, it can be, and in certain
profitability,
companies,
maybe
it's a lot. The turnover in cannabis can be, and in some cases is worse than traditional retail, traditional hospitality. Not everyone gets it wrong, but it also, to be fair to cannabis, it's difficult to retain hourly workers in general. Fun fact.
True that.
Our generation, maybe, people born in the 80s, I want to say, somewhere around there, what we call millennials, Gen X, we have maybe 5 to 7 jobs in our career. My father and my grandfather's generation, they had like 1 or 2 jobs.
Right.
Like my dad literally worked at a store for 52 years that he ended up owning. Right. He worked his way up. So that was his one job. That was his career. now people have on average 20 to 25 jobs in the 25 to 30 years that they're going to work.
Wow.
So just that overall trend, they got a gig job, they got a couple hourly jobs, they
Sure.
go for Uber, and then they were a copywriter, and then they worked as a production assistant. And that's cool. Like, try stuff. That's awesome.
Sounds like my early career.
Yeah, right. But now what ultimately makes people happy and puts them on a path to increase their earnings is to develop a career trajectory and to have a path that they can follow. And I think part
And
of
have
the
passion.
turnover- to have passion.
I'm saying doing something that you're passionate about.
If you can do something that you're passionate about, but you have a map of what it means to go from a bud tender to an inventory manager to a retail
Yes.
GM, and then be able to get promoted to a DM. You go from $18 an hour to $100,000 a year in 18 months in this industry. You could be the best bud tender in New York City. They just December 27th, first regulated legal cannabis sale happened. A year from now, that first bud tender is going to be the most experienced bud tender in New York City.
Period.
That sold that first thing. Like, that's a fact.
I like that. A roadmap of your career trajectory. Like, I'm wondering if there's like career professionals that can help people like develop that roadmap.
I think I might know of a couple of career professionals that might be coming soon to a careersincannabis.com near you.
Yes, I agree. I like that. You make a really good point because like in this industry, I like to say that if you work in this industry, you become a jack of all trades.
Absolutely, yeah. You become a jack or Jill of all trades in this industry, no question. I think one of the things, we have almost 100,000 users that we've and job seekers that we've been helping over the last 18 months since we launched the product, and we're blessed to have them on our platform and to have their trust and help them find their cannabis career. And one of the things we see is because we take, like I said, this very simple sort of skills quiz, see where you're going to fit. One of the things we ask questions about tests for one of the Ocean 5 psychometric skills called adventurousness.
Okay.
And we validate this. We have a psychometrician who graduated with a cognitive science PhD who's validated this. It's why, like, the science, what's going on under the hood at Engine is very serious stuff.
We got some professionals over here.
We got incredibly smart people, way smarter than I am. Maria and Valerie know exactly what they're doing. They've done it before. But it's still not, it's always looking to be improved.
Sure.
But one of the early pieces of data we got is that on average, people who are applying to cannabis jobs, their adventurous level is higher than the control group, meaning like the standard population.
Okay.
By like 10 or 15%. And so basically everyone who applied was a bit more adventurous than your average person. And that actually isn't surprising.
No, let's say they'll, maybe they'll take a big bong rip in the middle of while they're working, whereas the average person.
Some people might be that adventurous. From some of the stories I've heard, there's definitely people that adventurous. But
okay,
this notion
continue.
that they're willing to take a risk, like that's one of the things adventurousness tests for is risk tolerance. So if our status quo is less risk tolerant than your average cannabis applicant, it makes sense because it is true that joining this industry is more volatile or risky than joining, let's say, a fast food company.
By the mere nature of the industry, the fact that it's still federally illegal is a risk.
It's the banking, the taxes, all of that trickles down, and the people who actually get hurt the most from all of these bad policies is the workers. And I'm fully supportive of the initiatives, especially the initiatives in New York, my home state, where I've been involved in following along and advocating for the MRTA. I think it's great, and I think licensing is an incredible and important step to creating generational wealth. But 99% of the people that make money from cannabis will be workers.
1,000%. I say that all the time. We have to focus on the 99%. And yes, equity is important. Owning a business is important. But if you don't even know how to work in the industry, how are you going to own something in the industry?
Have a pathway for justice involved individuals, which is something that, as you know, we're working on together to get into the industry, find their fit, build a resume, match with jobs, interact with employers. And if in 12 or 18 months you're making money and you want to start your own business, fast track. You're an 18-month experienced cannabis person. You're going to know where all the skeletons are buried. You're going to know all the mousetraps, and you're going to be able to start your own business and have a much higher likelihood of success.
100%. In every vertical, it's like that.
Absolutely.
99.9% of the people in any vertical are employees.
And there's, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of economic opportunity that'll be created through wages in the legal cannabis industry. And so we want to make sure our responsibility, we don't, we work with operators, we work with, license holders, but really we look after the people, right, in the industry. And that's everyone from the C-level all the way down to the bud tender. Everyone deserves transparency. They deserve tools. They deserve support, right? And they deserve some, access to a great career opportunity. And then if we can do that, and we can also track those analytics, work with local regulatory partners, work with state governments, eventually work with the federal government, because there's no Bureau of Labor statistics for cannabis. They don't cover it. Nothing. A 500,000 person industry, they have no data from the federal BLS because it's federally legal.
Really?
So, and if you look at the BLS, like they basically they're like the master keepers of data that the Fed and other places use to really analyze major policy decisions. So you're basically flying blind as a federal government official at some point in the future when there's a federal legalization event.
We don't have any type of, other than like your, I guess, headset and all that stuff. That's more data on like the sales side.
Yeah,
but there's no data on like
hoodie,
the labor
those are
side.
Consumer analytics products are very valuable for that. We as, there are certainly other organizations doing recruiting work, but from a pure software perspective, as a tech platform, we think the only one, or certainly the one focused on our area, which is really the point of application is where we optimize. And we can track everything leading up to that point and everything leading from that point on the both job seeker and hiring manager side, so that we can showcase what's actually happening inside this workforce. What are the diversity metrics of pipelines? I can slice and dice pipelines. I can tell you which states have the most diverse applicants and workers in cannabis. I can tell you which companies and what brands do, who's paying what pay transparency looks like at scale. All this is stuff that we have as part of our offering. And ultimately what the value is that it becomes some level of standardization. And when you have standardization, you have scale. Yes. And when you have scale, you have efficiency. And when you have efficiency, you have more profits and more money to go around to both workers, investors, and owners, which is necessary for the industry to thrive.
Make sure we clip that up, LJ. I like that one. No, 100%, man, 100%. It's interesting, man. We're on the forefront of something new here, not just in cannabis, but in some of these states that are coming online, New York specifically. What are you seeing in what are the top jobs right now that people are gravitating towards in the industry? Obviously we know that bud tenders, trimmers, or any job where you need a massive amount of people are the most jobs available. But what are you seeing in terms of maybe mid-career to higher up jobs?
So,
in New York and across America.
When you look at the cannabis industry as an industry vertical and you break down the different segments or departments within cannabis, you have agriculture, you have retail, you have distribution, you have manufacturing, and you have sort of brand, marketing, sales, corporate, right?
Gotcha.
So basically, the diversity of job types inside of a cannabis company or inside of the cannabis industry more broadly is enormous. And anyone, I always say there's a butt for every seat and a seat for every butt. Like anyone can find a cannabis job that fits that. If you like working with your hands and you grew a garden, maybe you're going to gravitate towards agriculture, right? If you have been working at the Gap and you're just like, look, I want to try something new, you're a great fit, at least from a base skills perspective, to apply to a bud tender job. And then when you start to move your way up, both through the industry or transition in from other parts of, companies, alcohol, CPG, other athletic brands, entertainment brands, those all share something in common, which is ultimately that they're consumer branded products.
Correct.
Of some kind.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what a cannabis product is, right? And it fits more into a lifestyle product, whether it's a wellness lifestyle or whether it's, a traditional cannabis cultural lifestyle, or whether you have, some sort of future type lifestyles of things that a brand like Can is pioneering, which is this sort of social tonic, relaxed backyard party lifestyle where you're drinking your cannabis instead of smoking. Like all these are new paradigms. But what they have in common is that they need to appeal to a certain consumer type. So anyone who's come from a consumer branded company or a CPG company and has that sort of knowledge, when you look at modern cannabis jobs, especially in more developed markets where brands are what's going to actually make the difference, those people are becoming more and more in demand, right?
Okay.
And then when you look in upstart markets, what you find is that you really need a generalist, pretty much in any sort of corporate role. So if you're in a marketing role, well, you're probably going to do some sales too, right?
100%.
And if you're, working in operations, you should probably understand a little bit about logistics too, because you might have to run delivery because we don't have a delivery depot team yet. Right?
Correct. And maybe even a little bit of HR.
Probably. Everyone's doing a little bit of HR, you know what I mean? So, this is why when we look to create content and partnerships and bring valuable data and information to the job seeker, it's all about this notion that you can find a home here, but it might take some time because this industry is kind of moving very quickly, but also at its own speed and not exactly in a straight line.
You ain't never lied about that. So like, how do we as job seekers, and I guess maybe you've kind of answered it this whole conversation, but how do we as job seekers find those right positions, right? Like, it's not like another vertical where we know that the pinnacle of working in tech is at Google, Apple, right, Microsoft, right? It's not like that. Or if it's a clothing company, if we could work for one of the big, brands that are out there. Cannabis doesn't really have a leader other than you can say a Stizzy or a Cookies or maybe some of the bigger MSOs. But even then, as a whole, they're most people don't know that. How do we find that right company, that right job, or not necessarily the job, but the right company to get into it?
Yeah. So I think, what you're talking about and what's really important that really hasn't happened yet in cannabis is the development of employer brands.
Okay.
Cannabis companies have been so focused on just establishing a brand for their products, for their consumers, for their stores.
Oh.
But like you said, there's no working at Google is the pinnacle of tech. What is the pinnacle of a workplace in cannabis? You're right, it hasn't been established.
Like a Zappos, like the fact that when you come to work at the place, it's not even about what they're selling, it's about the culture of their work environment.
Exactly. And I will say that there are certainly companies, like you said, that are further ahead than others.
Correct.
But it is by far one of the most underserved areas of the market, which is why when we built Engine, we decided that Engine is we fade into the background. We're just the engine, right? But your brand, that's the shiny car. We just want to power it. And we want to help you fill it with the right fuel and the right people, right? But your employer brand, what it's like to work at, Stizzy or Ascend or Columbia Care or Simply Pure in New Jersey, that is going to determine the quality of people you can hire, the quality of people that you're going to be able to retain. And once you start to see these companies develop and invest in their employer brands and invest in their teams, not just from a paying people fairly, which they should do as a baseline, but also in what are the career programs? What are the education incentives?
What's the trajectory?
What is the trajectory, right?
Yeah, good point.
What do your referral programs look like? Are you doing things for your local talent pool? If someone's applied to a job before, maybe they can come in and get 20% off. Maybe, you throw career fairs every quarter. Get a local band, do it in the parking lot, have some fun, tell people what it's like to work in the industry. Because here's the thing, the summation of all of the industry, of all of the employer brands within the industry individually is what will equal the industry's brand.
1 + 1 + 1 = 50.
Exactly. And we need to hold these organizations to an extent accountable to working together to create a great place to work. And if you're a large company, especially in cannabis, and you haven't invested in your employer brand, you're missing out on an opportunity to improve performance of your teams, improve retention, and honestly, sell more product, because people want to buy products from companies that treat their people well.
Okay, you make a really good point. How do we pay for all this? Because unfortunately in our industry, you're right, that's tough, man.
I know.
That's tough, right? We don't have the margins in this industry as a whole yet to do some of those things, because what you're saying makes 100% sense, but it's difficult in paying for it. And I think that's probably why we see so much turnover as well, is because we're putting too much on our workers.
Yeah.
Where there's a good and a bad to that. The good thing is you become a jack of all trades. You learn everything. You get to see what's what and what you like, and then you veer into that direction. But then what I think is probably happening as well is the entry level person is getting bombarded with stuff that they should be getting paid double for that they're not. And the reason why they're not getting paid double is because of compliance, taxation, overregulation, ridiculous supply chain problems. And so we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So I think there might be like some sort of like, as a macro industry whole, affordability issue on why we're not growing the way other verticals are. Do you think that is part of it?
I mean, absolutely. Running a regulated cannabis company in most states, especially some of the states with the higher tax rates, is a very, very difficult thing to do. Running a business in general and being an entrepreneur is a very, very difficult thing to do. And add on the complications that you just mentioned, right?
Yes.
Taxation, regulation, 280E, etc. And yes, running a legal cannabis business is challenging. And yes, the workers unfortunately suffer some of the brunt of that, because in many cases, especially for smaller mid-sized operators, they don't necessarily have the resources to go to, a large recruitment marketing and employer branding company out in the mainstream to do a, $500,000 campaign to try to fix it, right? Which is why we created Engine to be very affordable and to be software and AI driven, so that, we could keep things lean on our side so we could pass those savings on to businesses.
Nice.
But I would argue that, even if you're investing, $50,000 a year, $30,000 a year, whatever, into campaigns and software and technology that helps you hire better, recruit people and interact with them in a more transparent way, and then ultimately retain people longer, that investment will be 10, 20, 50x ROI. Even if you increase your retention by 2 or 3 months and you have 50 employees, you will hire like 30 less people a year.
Easily, and the cost to train these people, all those things 100%. You said.
Those are real costs, but it literally costs you money to post jobs and pay HR people, etc. But
correct.
Also, you are kind of at the same time making it more difficult for other people at your company to stay when they see everyone around them leaving all the time. So there's a cultural impact, and it can become a major problem and metastasize within an organization, and then impact your employer brand, impact your customer experience, impact the quality of your products if you have turnover in your grow all the time. So these are not things that are nice to have, right? Like, it can be an existential problem, but it's also one of those problems that's like, most operators, they don't come from a recruiting or HR background.
No.
Right? They were in sales, or they were legacy operators, they were growers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't know where to really start in terms of how to solve the problem. And they got a dozen other problems. They got the taxes, right? They don't know how to work with 280E. Right? Their bank just kicked them out. These are things that are pebbles in the shoe, as I like to say. We're all climbing a mountain, right? If you have pebbles in your shoe, it's going to be even harder to make it up that mountain.
Sure.
Let us help you get some of the pebbles out of your shoe.
Okay.
You're still going to climb the mountain.
Correct.
But maybe you can go a little bit faster. You can go a little bit farther.
I love it. You know what I mean? And in this industry, you're going to climb that mountain. You're going to big thighs, because you're not taking any escalators or elevators up the mountain in this industry. And like, I think that if we can solve this problem of, or not problem, but challenge of recruitment in cannabis, I think that we can start to see a trend into building those pinnacle companies of cannabis, and Engine's doing a really good job at doing that. For those that are out there, like, tell what can, like, who's your ideal customer? And obviously that's everybody, but like, I guess, what are some of the characteristics of your ideal customer? Let the people know, like, so that we can start driving traffic to you guys.
We love that, Anthony. Love it. Thank you, by the way. I just really appreciate you having me here and having this conversation. It's always great catching up with you, man.
Love.
And appreciate all the things that you've done to help build the workforce side of the industry in such a great way. You're awesome partners.
Man, blessings. Thank you, man. And we had a team too. So our team, Brandon over at Brand Resumes, and L'Oreal and Corvain, and just all the good partners. And I appreciate that. You guys really got to check out FlowerHire and Engine, man. They got a solid team of people over there. Check out Ben K, man. Ben K's out there crushing it on the back end.
Yeah, we got to give it up to Ben. And let me tell you about our ideal customer profile, because that's a great question.
Yes, sorry.
For Engine, our value proposition is simple. Companies are already spending money posting ads for applicants, posting jobs, distributing them. They're using LinkedIn, they're using ZipRecruiter, they're using Indeed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We've already partnered with all those companies. We've got partnerships with them and more. We can reach tens of thousands of job boards. I can advertise on every major social platform. We've got this, as we call it, the Death Star, our recruitment marketing job advertising platform that, shout out to Ben Kogelman for getting that built. And
Dun, 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 dun.
right? I know. Can you picture him? And so all the companies got to do, we work with some of the biggest brands in cannabis, including some of the brands we mentioned earlier, and they're already doing it. We just take their budget, we push it through Engine, immediately save 20 to 30% or get 20 to 30% more applicants, depending on what your goals are. Immediately saving money, like within a few weeks using our platform. And then we can easily drive those candidates into your ATS system if you're a larger company, you already have it, or we built our own homegrown cannabis ATS and CRM. You can use ours. So we can work with any company, but our best customers are really sort of growing mid-market companies that really want to take seriously and have analytics for and insights on their hiring funnels, their diversity metrics, where they're getting job postings, and then they want to look to ultimately improve retention. And a lot of those companies have, anywhere between 100, 150 and, 5 or 10,000 employees. And, we work with some of the largest publicly traded companies in the industry. And we also work with, shout out to Tahir over at Simply Pure. I don't know if you know Tahir in New Jersey.
Of course.
Yeah, I figured Tahir's awesome.
Tahir was part of our partnership in Trenton.
Oh, yeah, right. Tahir was at the Trenton thing. That's right, man. What's up, Tahir? We worked with him. We were lucky to be able to partner with him as one of our customers. And he had like 1,000 people apply to his jobs because he just got a name. He built a brand, and everyone in Trenton wanted to work for Simply Pure. And he's got one store, but he's got his pick of the litter, man. He's going to build an incredible team, and we're like just blessed to be able to work with him. We help run his career page. So it could be a small single company like that just Tahir wants to take hiring and building out a team really seriously. He wants to make sure he's reaching the community. He wants to make sure people are seeing that he's hiring, so that the people that want to work there can join that network, join his talent pool, and, stay up on jobs, and then eventually get hired and start their cannabis career.
Super, man. Sure. I love that, man. And big shout out to here. Shout out the whole city of Trenton, Leo Bridgewater, Phil with Black Cannabis, man. They're doing some really good things in Trenton. And that's like a city on the rise that's doing a lot of hiring right now. So
absolutely.
I'm really,
Love
really,
to see that.
I'm really pumped about New Jersey just as a whole. Lots of great companies, lots of great brands.
The second half of 23 in New Jersey, I think, is going to be awesome. We know a lot of brands under construction. They got their act together with some of the social equity stuff, and they're starting to license some of those folks, thankfully. And so, I think Hoboken or Jersey City, they got like 40 dispensary licenses going up under construction right now. So, you're going to start to really see that market come online, and it's already doing a couple $100 million a quarter. So it's just at the very beginning, man.
I'm loving it, man. There's a lot of good social justice, restorative justice brands, companies, and people in the state of New Jersey, and I'm honored to be able to work with a lot of them. And so we're getting close to our hour, but I just wanted to pick your brain, man. You're an industry expert. You know what's going on. You have your hand on the pulse of this industry. What before we get out of here, what is two pieces of advice? First piece of advice, what would the advice you would give to a company looking to hire the right candidates? And then the second one, what's the one piece of advice you would give to a job seeker looking to get hired?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I would hasten to say that I'm an industry expert. I'm a student of the cannabis industry. I'm always
humility is always good, but
I've been around.
You're still
I think
good.
4 years in. I think that's what, dog years.
4 years in cannabis, which is 28 years in cannabis years.
Yeah, right.
But
decent. I feel like it's 28.
But been in recruiting though since 2005.
Yeah.
Right, and so really understands recruiting, whether it's in tech or whether it's in cannabis. I think it all comes together, just recruiting as a whole.
Yeah,
so
recruiting and talent and building great hiring companies is a universal thing. And I would say, to answer your question, if I had to give advice to companies in the cannabis industry looking to hire, it's invest in your people. right? Invest in your people, invest in the tools that they need to be successful, invest in insights and analytics so that you can understand truly, not guess, but truly understand what's going on inside your organization, what your employer brand's looking like, what your talent pool's like, and then invest in people to help run that, whether that's an operations team, whether that's an HR team, or whether when you get big enough, that is a talent and recruiting team.
And you also mean like invest in things like education for your workforce, like what you're doing with Green Flower, or like what we're doing with Oaksterdam, things like that, where you invest in the people, wellness programs, just invest in the individuals is what you're saying?
Pay people fairly, right? Like invest as much as you can, because the ROI of investing in people is real, okay? And yes, every dollar counts, every penny counts in a legal regulated cannabis company. No question. But don't skimp on your people. It'll impact the rest of your organization, will suffer if you don't invest in that area.
You heard it first. Invest in your people. Make sure you do it. This is something that I learned in financial literacy. This is something I've learned in college. This is something I've learned in every industry I've ever been in. When you invest in the people, you just get better results.
Period.
When you invest in yourself, you get better results. So what makes us think that if we don't do it with others, it's any different? It is. Like, this is what we have to do, is invest in people. So great advice for the businesses. How about the job seeker?
Yeah, so if I had to give a job seeker who wants to get a job in cannabis any advice, it would be believe in yourself. Right? Invest in yourself, sure, but like I think investing in yourself, getting education, going online, build your profile on careers in cannabis, all that stuff is a foundation. But you have to believe that you can be successful in the industry, and sometimes that belief is driven by a quest for knowledge, learning about.
I just didn't quit.
I like that. Yeah, just don't quit.
LJ, grab that. You got that? Yeah. But that's the point. That when you're saying believe in yourself, meaning don't quit on yourself.
Because it's going to be demoralizing at times. And we see jobs get posted on our site. They're up for a day. They're down. They're filled. They're moved. Someone quit. Someone came back. And it's a constant sort of wild ride when you're looking for a cannabis job or when you're working in the industry. But if you believe in yourself and you believe in the future and you put one foot in front of the other every day, you can ultimately be successful. And I think that's a piece of advice I got a long time ago. And so just want to be able to pass that on to the future generation of cannabis workers.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you here, Sloane. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing for 40 Tons. Big shout out to Hemper, one of our sponsors. Shout out to all the businesses that help get us to where we are. MJ Pack, our new deal in California. We're going to be out in Missouri soon with Illicit. We got some things in Maryland with Remedy, and HPI Canna in New York. Whew. So I'll make sure I connect you with those guys as well. Yeah. We're just appreciative that we have the industry's support. Thank you for educating us on just all things that have to do with careers in cannabis. Don't forget, make sure you register at Careers in Cannabis on the link that's below right here. And businesses save 30% off your bottom line in recruiting just signing up with Engine. So make sure you guys go and do that. Sloane, it was definitely a pleasure. If there's anything you want to say to the viewers, please do. Otherwise, man, welcome to California. Thanks for stopping by.
It's great to be here, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, brother.
Love and respect, brother.
Love and respect.
Hey, before we get up out of here, Ben, the wife brought some things. What's up, John? She brought some clothes. Did you see?
She brought some stuff.
She dropped some stuff off over there. Is it on the table? I want to give Sloane something. We give stuff to our guests.
Oh, I'm here for the swag.
I don't know if I actually did see it.
Oh, did she not? I wonder if
she might just be right outside of the car.
Oh, she might have put it in the car. All right, well, we'll off camera we'll do it, but we definitely got some swag for you, Sloane, and we always want to make sure that we take care of our guests. But much love, much respect, tons talk. Oh yeah, that's the bag. Ooh. Oh, look, here it is. So before we get up,
that looks swaggy.
Let's see what we're working with. Just the large.
Oh yeah.
There you go, brother. You want to open it?
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
For you, buddy.
This is no joke.
Yep.
You get this made around here?
Yeah, downtown LA. All right, got the hoodie with the tags. with me.
It's one nigga Covain said he living life after life. For all the homies on the bunks that were talking night after night.